Believe me, fellow Americans, I tell you that before the flood, in the book of Genesis we read, and in the days of Noah, there was violence on the earth. All of the violence that happens in our country is a fever graph. Read it. And it points to a decay in our civilization. How are we going to get out of it? The eagle always builds its nest high in the mountain crevices. When the young are hatched, the eagle pushes its young over the nest. And they fly down to what to eaglet eyes must seem like sudden death. And just before the young eagle crashes, the mother eagle swoops down from its nest, down to the abyss, and catches the young, and then flies up into the sky, swoops from out it again, and repeats the process until the bird has learned to fly. Moses saw that, and he wrote, "As the eagle stirs among the young, so does God stir among the nations." Maybe God is stirring us, bringing us to the brink of danger, in order that we might begin to examine ourselves and restore Jefferson, the dignity of man, and a belief in God. Our nation is too full of those that are crying down. Down with the universities, down with schools, down with the churches, down with teachers, down with government, down with the police. Can you build anything down? You cannot. Certainly time in our nation to change our words. And let's begin now to use the word up. Up from all of this filth. Up from this violence. Up from this indifference of courts. Up to the hid battlements of eternity. Up to God.
His words that prove to be as timeless as a gentle ocean wave, seeking the shore where you walk in the season of autumn. Your companions are the seabirds, and a friendly sea creature that comes to say hello. The blue colors turn to autumn gold. You watch the boats out in the sparkling blue, wishing for a voyage to a new world or a secret place, like a modern-day Columbus.
I remember during the council, I was waiting one day for the bus that took us to the council, and I saw a street cleaner in front of the hotel where I was staying, and I went up to him and I said, "How long will you work today?" He said, 12 hours. "What time did you get up?" He said, 4 o'clock this morning. And I said, "What is your duty?" He says, "Nothing but just sweeping the gutters." About a mile of gutters here in Rome. "How much do you earn?" He told me it was really a trivial wage. I said, "Tell me your philosophy of life." And he said, "You're going to the council, aren't you?" "Yes." "You're going to make important decisions for the church and the world." "Yes." He said, "But if I clean my gutters with a greater dedication than you do that work, the Lord is far more pleased with me." That's right. He saw that we have work in the world, and it can be a dedicated and divine and holy work. Now, this is the good side. There's a kind of a bad side to this, too. I'm going to mention it for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to get back again to the good side. This concern with the world is called secularism. Its bad side is that some would like to do away with the divine and the sacred. We've had a series of thinkers in our day that believe that in order to uphold the world, one has to destroy the divine. That's one of the reasons, incidentally, for the God is dead movement. These poor thinkers believe that in order to make room for the words, you got to get rid of God. Bultmann says in order to make room for the Christian message, you have to get rid of the historical Christ, practically. And we have the author of Secular City. He practically identifies the secular city and the kingdom of God. And even in the field of religion itself, today the holy are on the defensive. This world spirit has gotten hold of us to such an extent that many do not like the holy. I may tell you that it's gotten so bad that when any of you people see us priests on our knees, you ask us if we lost our contact lenses. Well, that's enough of that.
In the season of spring, we celebrate Mother's Day, a day of flowers and love and faith. We remember the words of Mary at the Annunciation when the angel Gabriel told her she was with child. I am the servant of the Lord. Be it done unto me according to thy word. In the book of Psalms we read that children are a gift from God. But in the book of life we know that mothers are the real gift. They are the poetry and love of our lives. And love can be a many splendid thing.
And he wrote, I fear to love thee, sweet, because love's the ambassador of loss. Love's the ambassador of loss. White flake of childhood, clinging so to my soiled raiment, thy shy snow at tenderest touch will shrink and go. Love me not, delightful child, my heart by man's snares beguiled, is grown timorous and wild. It would fear thee not at all, wert thou not so harmless, small, because thy arrows, not yet dire, are still unbarbed with destined fire. I fear thee more than hadst thou stood full panoplied in womanhood. All the while, he's being haunted by something. And I told you of that poem of haunting. I gave it to you one year, The Hound of Heaven, that he wrote. He went back again to dope. The Meynell still cared for him. But this hound was pursuing him. But despite this shell, that shell that first came to the Meynells, he had no stockings on and his toes were out through his shoes and dirty old brown coat, no shirt. Consumptive, because of the nights he slept under the cartwheels of London. He still had this love that pulled him. Probably that was pulling him at the beginning of his life, and so he wrote, O world invisible, we view thee. O world intangible, we touch thee. O world unknowable, we love thee. Turn but a stone and start a wing. 'Tis ye, 'tis your estranged faces that miss the many splendored thing. Love's the many splendored thing. not earth love, heaven love, that Thompson saw everywhere. And haunted by that love, he went finally to his reward. And one day, while in London, I went out to Kensal Green Cemetery. And I asked someone whom I had met in the cemetery, do you know where the tomb or the grave of Francis Thompson is? No, I never heard of him. So I walked and walked. And I finally came to a slab that read, Francis Thompson, 1859, 1907. And then there came a line, an unforgettable line that drew one back to all of his loves of childhood. And that last line on the tombstone was, look for me in the nurseries of heaven. Love's a many splendor thing.
It is a beauteous evening, calm and free, the holy time as quiet as a nun, breathless in adoration. The broad sun is sinking down in its tranquility. The gentleness of heaven broods o'er the sea. We live in the light of our imagination. We begin as children, racing with the wind. As the years pass, we build many memories within the portrait of our world. It is a journey well traveled, for to experience faith, hope, and love is to have lived, to have used our time well, on this pilgrimage back to a place we never left. Bishop Sheen's message, The Ages of Man.
Did you hear the announcement of the subject tonight? It's on the ages of man. Now, there are various ways of treating the subject. One of the light ways, of course, is there are 3 ages. There's youth, there's middle age, and my, you do look wonderful. I was going to call this telecast at first The 7 Ages of Man on account of Shakespeare. You remember his review of the 7 ages in his drama, As You Like It. The scene was laid in Arden, a forest, not a paradise by any means. And the Duke, one of the characters, gives us the 7 ages. And we will go over these 7 ages of Shakespeare and then see if we can find another way of treating them. We certainly couldn't take the 7 ages in a program of this length, because if we gave 3 minutes to each age, well, we would be skipping over them very quickly. Now, here is Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. First, the infant, mewling and puking in his nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy, shining morning face and satchel, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. Then the lover, breathing like a furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. And then the soldier, full of strange oaths, bearded like a pard, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in a cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eye severe, beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The sixth scene shifts to the lean and slippered pantaloons, with spectacles on nose, pouch on side, his youthful hose a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning once again to childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all, that ends this strange, eventful history. In second childishness and mere oblivion, sans eyes, sans teeth, sans taste, sans everything.
Bishop Sheen often said, if it were not for hope, the human heart would break. For hope is the candle of our soul. Its light is the dawn of our days. We pray for hope to be constant in our lives, like the ocean waves that break upon the shore in their never-ending ritual. Hope is a vital part of our faithful prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Hope is a whisper, a breath, a thought, a wish. It is our gift from the Lord in a world that, as the poet Tennyson writes, is bound by gold chains about the feet of God. Bishop Sheen now speaks on hope for a wounded world.
In the corridor of this television station, there is a cloakroom. Over it is a sign. These are reserved for the president and the 10 vice presidents. Underneath are a series of long hooks. Do you know what my angel just did? He put a sign underneath, said you can also hang coats and hats on these. Being of a very sweet disposition, the angel is put in charge of these flowers that you see. He was a little slow in getting them out today. The floor manager said to him, better put those flowers out or I'll spank you. The angel says, that's a big joke. An angel doesn't have any place to spank. Well, this is a telecast on hope. And the reason we've chosen this subject is because there seems to be so much despair in the world. And we will take as despairing a look as one can and then extract hope. You remember the old legend of Pandora's box? Pandora opened a box, and death, disease, destruction, economic chaos, leprosy, fears all came out, and she barely slammed the lid on the box. Otherwise, hope would have got out. Hope was the only thing that was left in the box, to indicate that there's some hope even amidst all the evils of the world. G.F. Watts did a painting of hope. And in it, he pictured a beautiful lady, but blindfolded. seated on a solitary planet whirling around into space. And she had before a harp. But the harp had only one string. And she was drawing a melody out of that one string. That is hope. Now, because we're going to show the real basis of hope, let us picture what the world thinks of despair, and we're going to give the three wounds and origins of modern despair. And I will perhaps leave these on the board and then come back to them every now and then. In other words, what makes modern despair? Well, first thing is God is dead. In other words, we have nothing left in this world except the world itself. If there's any hope, it's technology and science. Maybe if we just give enough time, technology may be able to take care of all of our diseases. There'll be no more poverty. But there's no such thing as guilt or sin. We have only to deal with social issues. This is one of the despairing pictures of the modern world. And the second is violence, which disturbs us all. Now, out of all of the many facets of violence that we could choose, we're just going to choose one phase of violence, and that will be modern wars. Now, what is terrible about modern wars is that they involve less and less the soldiers who fight. They touch more and more the civilians.
The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. Words from the English poet Matthew Arnold. A stream of water creates its own pathway, a spiraling journey, past many places, always moving toward the sea. It is like our human journey. We seek the fulfillment of inner needs that only our soul and God know about. We look for our pathway. After his baptism by John, two men asked Jesus, "Where do you live?" Jesus answered, "Come and see." It is an invitation that we should accept. It is a direction along our pathway. Again, Bishop Sheen.
And before we start talking about neurotics, may I tell you that this morning I was crossing Fifth Avenue at about 38th Street, and there was a mother with a little girl, about 4 years of age, out in the middle of the street. It was a New York cop, John Flanagan, directing traffic. And the little girl said to his mother, "Mummy, was that policeman ever a baby?" And the mother said, "Yes." She said, "You know, I've never seen a baby policeman." Apropos of neurotics, there was a mother who brought her child to a psychiatrist. And she said, "I don't know why he's insecure. Everyone else in the neighborhood is." Which brings up the question, are we more neurotic on these days? Now, there are two answers. We're going to consider both. One answer is, well, we're not more neurotic. There have always been, well, psychotics and neurotics. Take, for example, very famous people have done queer things. The poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, for example,
had a passion for building paper boats. He would float them in the bathtub. And one day he didn't have any paper, and he made a boat out of a 50-pound bill. Spinoza, the philosopher, you know what he was fond of doing? He was fond of catching spiders and matching them one against another and watching them fight. Petavius used to get up from his chair at the end of every second hour of work and spin it around 10 times, then sit down and work for another 2 hours. But those who hold that we are not more neurotic today than before use such arguments as these. First of all, in 1853, there was a work, just think, 1853, a work published, The Great Disease of Our Times, Neuroses, work by Weinecke. The University of Tübingen in Germany made a study of neuroses and came to the conclusion that we are not more neurotic. It is only the symptoms that have changed. If you want a real good philosophy along these lines, read Viktor, V-I-K-T-O-R, Viktor Frankl, F-R-A-N-K-L, a Jewish psychiatrist of the University of Vienna, who has given us psychology called logotherapy, L-O-G-O, G-H-E-R-A-P-Y. Anything of his is worth reading. Man who went through concentration camps, suffered under the Nazis, suffered under the communists. And he came out of it all saying that he survived simply because he realized that life had a meaning. He told me not very long ago, when I had dinner with him, that when the Nazis began their persecution, he had an opportunity to come to the United States to start his new school of psychology and psychiatry, logotherapy. He wanted to do it. He had the passport, but his father was living. And he was sure that the Nazis would begin an intense persecution. Dr. Frankl said he went to the Church of St. Stephen's in Vienna, knelt down for an hour, and he prayed for wisdom. What should he do? Should he go to America? Or should he stay with his father? Watch his father maybe undergo the Nazi persecution and watch himself go through it as well. He came back to the house without a clear answer, but as he sat down to table with his father, he said to his father, "What is that over there on that other table?" Father said, "A piece of marble. I picked it up today at the synagogue. Remember the synagogue that Hitler burned? Our synagogue? Well, I went over there and I rummaged among the dust and the ashes and the burnt embers, and I found this broken piece of marble." Viktor Frankl said to his father, "Did you ever try to figure out what it was?" "No," he said, "I haven't." Well, he said, "Let's look at it." It was in Hebrew. First 3 letters of one of the commandments. The 4th, "Thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother." That was the answer Viktor Frankl wanted. And that night he had a dream. And in that dream he saw tens of thousands of his fellow Jews going into laboratories and into furnaces to be burned, and he willed to stay. And he came out normal, and he said everybody else that was in prison with him, that had an object, that had a goal and a purpose in life, was normal too. Life is not just made up by experiences that are intense, but experiences that are intense in relationship to an object. This is gold, this is happiness, this is joy.
The scriptures tell us, with God all things are possible. Also, our faith can move mountains. Faith is a wellspring of wisdom that flows within our spirit. In this portrait of God's beauty, our faith must be taller than the tallest tree. It should reach above and beyond the highest snow peaks. Our faith is God's best gift to us. It is salvation. It is peace. It is truth. Jesus tells us we must have the faith of children to enter the kingdom of heaven. Jesus touched people as he healed them, and as many as touched him, he made whole. Bishop Sheen adds that faith is a mystery, but it can be found in something as simple as the touch of your hand.
There was a test made on monkeys, in which young monkeys that were born were divided into two classes. And one little group of little monkeys had nobody to care for them at all. And the other group of monkeys were given a mechanical mother monkey. And this mechanical mother monkey was electrically heated. And when a monkey would jump up in its arms, the arms would mechanically move and embrace the little one. What happened? All of the little monkeys that had this mechanical mother and were warmed by its seeming affection became normal monkeys. But those other monkeys, I wish we had Bert Lauer here to say it, became the craziest of all monkeys. Because they lack love. Why are many young people today aggressive? They're aggressive because they've never received love. A study made of juvenile delinquents in England proved that the delinquents that came from divorced parents, or there was no love of father and mother, were guilty of the most serious crimes and also repeated their crimes more than the others. So the touch of the hand, then, brings us not only in communion with those that are in need of love, but it also infects them with our goodness and our kindness and our mercy. And I have 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go. Now I had another point to tell you, and I know this is the one now that'll make you curious because I'm not telling it to you. I don't have time. I can't start it. And so the problem is, you see on television, what do you do in 2 hours, in 2 minutes, or 1 minute and 58 seconds? You get very nervous, and you say, oh, what am I going to do at the time? But we'll save the other point for you. I merely want now to suggest to you that the problem of race and class will be solved in part by settling our abstract questions of rights, but it will be settled practically and concretely by love. And the burden of love falls on those who have. After all, for example, God loves me. There's no reason in the world why God should love me. Absolutely none. Now, I don't know whether you think you're very lovable or not, but probably in very honest moments you admit that you too are not very lovable. But God loves you. Just as he loves me. Well, why does he love me? Why does he love you? Since there's nothing very lovable in us. He loves us because he puts some of his love into us. His love into us.
And that's why we're supremely and divinely lovable. So down to the inner city. Touch children, touch people, live with them, mingle with them, do the divine thing, put a little love into them, and everyone will become lovable.
Compassion is like this towering tree. It has seen nature's storms come and go, yet it endures through all the seasons of our lives. Compassion is the gentle deer and the small bird that seek their food in the winter snow. Both seem to know that God's nature will provide. When we look into ourselves, we seek true compassion in our lives and for the lives of others. We find help in the writings of St. Paul. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Bishop Sheen tells us how we can reclaim our true spiritual identity in a talk he calls false compassion.
There's always been a right kind of compassion, and it manifests itself in various ways. It can be physical, it can be financial, it can be moral. Financial compassion would be helping the poor. And this really happened to me the other day going to my office. Some tramp came up to him and he said, "Would you give